Bye. My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our Duck Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Well, here we are, another episode of Duck Dogs. I'm your host, Josh Miller, and today I'm joined by Mr. Bret Ayers and Mr. Eric Schutte again, and we have another good episode here for you guys because we're going to recap the first day here in Arkansas on Eric's winning hunt to come down here from Retriever Roadmap. So before we get going, let's make sure to check thank our sponsors. Thank you to Eukanuba. Eukanuba is the presenting sponsor of this show. Eukanuba Premium Performance Sport 3020. That's the blend of food that I feed my personal dogs and the food that keeps them going throughout the year. So be sure to go check them out. Thank you to Sitka Gear. Sitka Gear is literally, as I look around, we are all head to toe in. I shouldn't say to toe because we don't have Sitka shoes on, but that's because Sitka doesn't make shoes. But everything else, we are literally decked out in Sitka. Keeps you in the field longer, more comfortable. It is phenomenal. It's the premier clothing that you could look for. So go check out www.sitkagear.com. Also, thank you to Gun Dog Supply. Gun Dog Supply is your one-stop shop for all of your hunting and training needs for your four-legged hunting partner. Great people, great service, great products. Go check them out, www.gundogsupply.com. Also, thank you to Lucky Duck. Lucky Duck is your 5-star crash test rated kennel, both in the intermediate and in the large sizes. So it doesn't matter what size of dog you have, you can be sure that they're traveling the safest way that they possibly can. So go check out Lucky Duck, www.luckyduck.com. Also, thank you to Kent Cartridge. Kent Cartridge is the shotgun shells that we are shooting and absolutely love these shells. We shot them all day here today, our entire group, and just a lot of comments from in the blind. We had a number of people that had not shot Kent, specifically bismuth, before today, and it was a unanimous, oh my gosh, this is a different shell, different game changer. So www.kentcartridge.com. And last but not least, thank you to Retriever Roadmap. Retriever Roadmap is your premium online destination for training your hunting partner at home. It doesn't have to be a hunting partner. It can be an obedience dog. It can be a puppy. It can be picking out a puppy. From picking out a puppy all the way through advanced training. www.retrieverroadmap.com will help you walk through that process and guide you with a video-based library to make sure that you are successful. All right, everybody. Well, we are back in the garage. So, Bret, thank you again for being here.
Yeah. This morning was pretty incredible, which, leading up to this day, we knew with this new farm, you've had some guys watching it for you, and they're like, man, they're just birds all over it. And last night, scouting it, it was definitely a lot of birds. We scouted them, we went and set up. Lots of birds. And then this morning did not disappoint. The only thing I'd say was we didn't see the mallards like I thought we would, like we saw yesterday. But talking to some of the locals and hearing some of the reports, not many people saw mallards today. So different wind. Yesterday it was howling. It was obviously a little chilly. Today was zero wind. We went there with ice. So, all the water that we had one little spot with the decoy where the decoys were at, but we still had to break some ice open. But the ducks that we shot did not care. So,
yeah, For sure.
It was fun.
For sure. Eric, thank you for being back here with us.
Awesome day. It was birds the entire time. And a lot of things happening with different groups coming in. You were making the call most of the day when to shoot, and many times you might be looking to the left, and we'd have a pack of 15 actually land.
Yeah.
So they just kept coming. And a lot of action for everybody. Everybody got some shooting in. The dogs got a ton of work in, and it was just fantastic.
Yeah. It's not about limiting out, but when you can be done by 8:30, 8:45.
Right.
I mean,
nice.
It's a fun deal because you have the action and you're right. There were so many times that there were so many groups of birds working us at once that I'm looking at calling at one, and then someone's like,
And
what about these? Like in the decoys, I'm like, I couldn't. It goes, we do go, I think, over the top in a positive way with brushing our blinds. We really try to make sure that our heads aren't poking out. We're not moon pieing these birds when they're up over top of us, especially down here. These birds really are educated and get jumpy over these things. So it's not like we're sitting in the wide open either. So you're trying to watch birds, and then you can't see half the blind. I mean, so Eric and I, because we were working the dogs, I'm on the left side, Eric's on the right side. And we have 5 guys in between us, 6 guys in between us, something like that.
Yeah, 5 guys.
Yeah, something like that. And so, there were times that, I would just tell Eric, like, hey, if you can touch him, shoot him, because I can't see it. Like, I can't see where he is. I can't see where he's swinging. And I don't want him to be sitting there hovering at 10 yards, and you're like, Josh, say it, because I can't see him. And so that's kind of the fun camaraderie. But the fun part for me is, in that camaraderie, you just feel the energy that's in that blind when there's so much action going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone's feeding off each other. We're all having a good time. We're all, hey, to the left, to the right, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And it's a fun atmosphere, and that's, I think what I love and I feed off of when we're in those moments.
Yeah. The last 10 minutes before shooting light was probably the longest 10 minutes because the show that we had was just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're just counting down the minutes until you can shoot. And, obviously the anticipation coming up to coming here with everything that, all the reports and everything, and then having the show that we had, 10 minutes before shooting time or 15, whatever it was. But it was just fun to watch.
Yeah, it really was. So we have a lot that we can go over. I want to hit the highlights. So, first off, the biggest highlight of the day. Okay, and there is a right answer to this. What was the biggest highlight of the day?
Eric?
For me, watching my dog work,
Okay.
big one.
Well,
And
the
dogs
right
work.
answer is the Jaguars won.
Oh.
The Jaguars won in
I knew
overtime.
that.
Come
I
on.
knew
Come on.
that
He
was coming.
sent me,
Oh, my
and we had to
gosh.
witness it too.
He wouldn't let anybody in the house take a nap because he's in
No.
front of the TV yelling
No.
at it. And,
I've been told that watching a Jaguars game with me is an experience.
that's what I said.
I don't know if it's a positive experience or not, but it's an experience. So Eric got that experience today.
Yes.
We got the full experience today. I think I'm a fan now.
And he even said he was going to take it easy.
Oh, yeah.
And I literally said, no, you're not.
I tried to. I really did. The reason I had to say that is that if for some reason my voice is a little off today, that's why. It wasn't because I was yelling in the blind. It was because of the Jaguars game. Okay, no, but seriously, was there a moment today, Eric, that you were like this moment or this retrieve, or was there anything specific that stood out to you with Scout specifically?
Okay. She did have 2 birds on her that dove. One she got. It's not the first time she's been in that situation, but the second time I learned a lot because this one just continued to dive. And it got to a point where we brought her back in to heel, cast her back out, and then it just became she kept going to the same spot every time, and it would dive, and it just, I think you said something, now we're in a situation now where she's going back to the same spots and was told to come back. And at that point, I said, okay, let's let's send the big boy out there and take care of this. And that's when you send Brock out there. But to me, that was a good learning experience, not only for her, but for me watching it. Obviously you maybe could have, we could have maybe shot that thing when it was doing, but I think there was some good lessons there on my end and watching her from both sides.
Mm-hmm. So that was absolutely my favorite moment of the morning too. And it's funny to me when I talk about my favorite moments. Oftentimes they're not successful moments, or what you and I would deem as successful, right? She didn't come back with that bird, so it is quote unquote unsuccessful. But there was so much success, and so we had numerous birds today that not only dove, but they would dive and stay underwater for a long time, pop up somewhere a good ways away. I'm talking 15, 20 yards. And by the time the dog could get there, dive again and dive again. How many times do you think, just
that
ballpark, how many times that dive?
That one probably went down at least, in my opinion, 4 times, 5 times. And then watching that bird on survival mode was really cool because it would hover itself low to the ground, hide behind a decoy, and then they visually couldn't see it. And they were still using their nose. But when that bird dives, they just the dog thinks it's going to pop back up.
Right.
So you brought up a good point too. That was it was an unsuccessful retrieve. But from my end, I've learned that's not going to wreck my day.
Oh yeah.
Because in the end, you said this before, you're going to celebrate the wins, and we had a ton of wins. I think earlier in my life with my other dogs, it might have wrecked me for the next 30 minutes. Like we didn't figure that out. So I was like, well, let's bring her back, send Brock out, and I dove once on him, I think. And then he finally pounced on it.
So I'll kind of paint this picture from my perspective on this because it was fun, really, really fun to watch this. So we had a bird, it was a cripple. We send Scout on it. She gets to it right before she gets to it, it dives. She does what most good dogs will do. Stops, looks in that area, not going all over the place, stays, holds that area, look, sniff, 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 pops up 10 yards away. She runs to it, dives. Same thing, runs to it, dives. And there was really one spot that she was on that bird 2 or 3 times. It would come up and go down right in one spot. And then finally, it just got to the point that she wanted to go, like when she didn't see it, she wanted to go back to where it was because she knew it was there. Again, this is a very young dog. This is, quite frankly, an old dog thing too. Like, where was this bird? That's where it should be, right? And it wasn't. And I was actually very, very impressed with how she would take a cast from you in that moment, because that's an old dog thing. Like, that's a seasoned dog thing to say, hey, I know it's right here. I just saw it. I'm waiting for it to come up. And you say, no, go over, and the dog actually do it. Most of the dogs are like, no, it's here, right? And it's a hard argument because you're not wrong, but I'm trying to help you here, right? And so what was interesting for me, so I was really impressed with that. And then you got to a point she didn't want to leave that area, right? So you called her back, which I think was the perfect thing to do. And then you were going to send her on a blind, but she came right back and fixed on that one spot, right? And that's when you said, send Brock. And I think you read the same thing I did, that this is going to be a fight now, because she was dead set that, for you guys at home, think of a clock. If we're at the center of the clock, Scout thought for sure this thing was at 11 o'clock, and it was really at like 9:30. But she had no way of knowing that, right? And so to pull her off of that, especially that bird was on the tip of her nose 2 or 3 times in this one spot, she's going to want to go back to that spot. And so this was, and again, you can do refusals, you can run diversions, you can do these things to work on this, but that live bird flapping in your nose for a young dog is this her first full season?
First full season, and really first one she's never brought back.
Yeah.
I mean, she had a couple divers, but that's the first time that's never, I mean, for a young dog to not finally get one. I mean, it was nice to work together tandem with you. And also, if I remember right, this started, I think, maybe 30 yards or 40 yards out. That duck swam back towards the shore eventually, which was nice that it came back to us. But
and then yo-yoed back.
And then my whistle broke. I have a whistle. So I said, Josh, I got a whistle. So now we're tag team, and Josh blows the whistle. Scout is looking at, I think, Rob at the camera for the while because the sun was there. Finally, she zoned in on me, and we were tag teaming.
Yeah, it was we rolled with it pretty good though. You know, it was a rodeo, but we rolled with it. I just thought this was really neat. That was the highlight of my day because she handled when it is very difficult to ask a young dog in the first season to handle. You could tell that she was emotional about it because when you called her in, she didn't want to come in. She did. Kudos to your obedience work, right? But you could tell in her body language she was frantic. You know, and to me, when I see a young dog specifically that's frantic, I mean, young dog, Brock does the same thing. Like, Brock does not like me recalling him without that bird. And you just see it in his face and his body language. It's like, I failed, right? And she didn't. But what was great about this is that we could go put her on a bird again right away. And that was the best part. And I had made a comment to you earlier, and I really believe this. These are the hunts, and especially if you can string them together, right? So if we could have 4 days of hunts like today, you can make a good dog great because of the exposure, because the repetition that you have, and just being able to, hey, if there's a goof up, great. I know I'm going to have more opportunities. This is what I'm going to do as a handler different to make them successful, right? You don't have that chance if you're going out like we do in Wisconsin a lot of times. Like if you were to go out in a public pond in Wisconsin with your dog and sit down, I mean, unless you're in a different place in Wisconsin than I am, it's, hey, I hope to kill a duck or two today. And so if you have a goof up or a mess up, you don't have the opportunity to put them in the situation, to make them successful, to let them learn from their mistake. And if they made the mistake, okay, so for her, if she got flustered and frustrated on that cripple and she didn't get to go after another cripple until next season, well, now this lesson probably isn't really sunk in. But she got to run on a cripple again. Well, the next volley, and she got on it right away, like that one little dive, and she stuck her nose in the water, boom, comes out with it, she's successful, right? So she learned and she evolved from that. And I just think there's so much to be said. Like, you can't replicate these birds. Like, you can't. It's the piece of the puzzle that you can't control.
And everyone's different. Every situation's different. So you can train, and probably a lot of times guys go to the same place to train. They're doing the same type of stuff, you know, try to mix up the scenarios. But now you go to a live hunt, and it's totally different. I mean, Scout's probably never been really in a situation like she was today.
No.
And, you know, I thought she handled herself well. My comment to this whole thing was going to be her recovery. Because the start of it, the first volley, the birds fell on her side, and she was put into a challenge right away. And honestly, wasn't super successful in that challenge. But you handled yourself really well as a handler to not let her feed off of that negative energy, and what turned into an extremely successful hunt for her.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that happened there because we had some teal come in. We had one land behind us in that ice, which actually you said went in.
Yeah.
We had one land in our speck of decoys. She marked nothing. So now
And it is dark.
it's dark.
There's a lot
She's
going
jacked
on, right?
up.
Yeah.
So now they're on my side. Well, now, and we actually had another one that landed. It was a wounded, but it flew away. So I was like, okay, this is a this is a big test.
This is not what we wanted. For the
So
first
it's like,
one, right?
oh my gosh, she had issues figuring it out, and even the one down by the ice, that's hard to find down there because you have a small window behind us. I actually had to check myself a little bit because I'm like, okay, that's not a good way to start here.
Yeah.
So I, again, gathered myself just for a little bit and checked myself a little bit. I didn't let it, maybe it agitated me for a few minutes, but bang, we had so many birds and they just went back to it.
Right. And on top of that, I know, just because I know, You were nervous to begin with.
Yeah, I was.
You've come down here.
Correct.
Never hunted with Josh.
Correct.
Never been in this crew. You've got a guy that's trained dogs for so long, super successful, all kinds of stuff, and you're bringing your dog here, and now you are comparing yourself to this.
Yeah.
And right away, mentally, you're like, you're nervous.
It took me probably 30 minutes into the hunt to start to feel comfortable. Mm-hmm. And I mean by that because now Scout's got a few retrieves. I've never hunted with somebody with another finished dog, and I thought that went well as the day went on. We'd knock birds down. Both dogs are sitting there, and you would say, the Scout, see it? Yep, bang. Scout, go get it. And that was the piece I loved the most, and I said I wanted to get some honoring today, and that was really important because she was ready to go. No, you're going to watch Brock bring these back.
And she did great with that.
She did awesome.
Yeah. One thing that I really appreciate from you is the way that you mentally check in with yourself. And I really do believe, so I don't know if we covered this yesterday, but you are the head coach of a high school basketball team.
Correct, yes.
And, I mean, a lot of what you are teaching your players as far as, it's no different than, you're going to a game. And I was fortunate enough to sit in on one of your practices, and you guys are going through game film. You have breakdowns of each player you're playing against, where they've shot from, their shot record, if they hit, if they miss. So if you go into this going like these guys don't shoot threes well at all, and they come down and knock 4 threes down in the first minute, and your team gets punched in the face, how do you okay, this didn't go how we planned it. Right, but we still have to have still check yourself mentally. What are we going to do to combat it? Right, I feel like that first volley, it was not as planned, and it was just because where we were hunting, there was a tree line that came up off the horizon. So when these birds came in low and right at us, completely lost visual sight. Right, black on black, can't see it, and then all of a sudden they rise, they're in your face. Well, they're coming. Especially the teal, Mach 5 at you. And so we shoot them coming up over top of us. So poor Scout is in this blind. Banging's going off. She's looking up there. Well, the birds are now past us and behind us, falling behind us. Not the ideal. We would have loved 2 splashes right in front of her in the decoys. And, it's
just
an easy one, right?
Yeah, right.
And that is right there. That training is not hunting.
Right.
You don't set up for that kind of stuff, and you don't. You can say you do, but all the X factors that go into it, you don't travel 14 and a half hours to go to a training session, right? You don't, sleep somewhere that she doesn't know where she is in a training session. You don't go out at 4 a.m. in a train. You don't do this, and these are all things that the human side of things, your emotion, your anxiousness, your excitement, there's so much that goes into this that these dogs feed off of. And it's no different than you coaching the kids, right? If you walked into a game and you're edgy and anxious, they're going to feed off that, right? And so it's very, you're the coach in both levels here, and I can really appreciate sitting back and watching you and how you handle Scout. I can see that.
Yeah, that mental piece is really important. Not to get back on basketball, but I've been in some high pressure situations where I got to stay calm. Overtime games, whatever, big. I can't be clapping my hands when people make a shot. I got to go on to the next play. And just teaching our kids, too. We just had a situation last week where we try to push our boys to the point where it's game-like situations where they get upset because you can't duplicate that. And when you get in the game, how are you going to handle yourself when things go bad? And we duplicated it last week. And then we had some we really get, and they make some mistakes there. And then we say, you can't do that. You need to keep a calm, attitude in what you're doing because you got to go on to the next play. And that happened to me today. That was a disaster start. You saw it, and he's got the video going, and I'm like, oh, my gosh.
Which amplifies the whole thing.
He tells me as I'm switching them from, from your phone to my phone, uploading them, whatever, and he's like, you're going to delete those first few minutes, aren't you? And that's what I thought was great. It's just a lot of people in that situation would have been flustered, would have been yelling at the dog, would have been, this, that, and the other. And, she's never, and you just calm, collective, you know what? She got the one. You got the win. You went back, and let's
Appreciate
wait for the
that.
next volley. So
Yeah.
that's what I thought was super cool.
Yeah, I just loved watching her evolution through the day too. I mean, from that first volley not being what we wanted to, and her kind of working through that struggle, to the next volley having some splashes right in the decoys that she marked, and boom, boom, running the blinds, which I thought you did a great job at.
Thank
man.
you.
Like really, really, like I can see all the work that you put into it. I'm really impressed with your body language, the way that you will use your leg to guide her, the way you look the part, which a lot of times someone that just is new to this kind of, like, it's like they look like an air traffic controller out there trying to you've done a very good job studying the why behind why you use the
That was
body
fun
way you
today
do.
because there was some marks, I used my leg a little bit to get her in the area, and her head goes like this, and all of a sudden, there's a couple today, bam, her head was on it, let's go.
Yeah.
And that was cool for me to see that happen, and reading the dog too, and figuring out when they're locked in. And we had one today talking about distractions, one that probably almost hit me in the head coming down, but landed 5 feet in front of her, and stayed there. And I mean, that's a huge distraction when something like that comes barreling down.
Yeah, and so again, training. Well, we can train for breaking birds, right? We can throw a bird right in front of them, splash it right in their face. We can do, but it is not falling or raining out of a group of, I think that one was that group of 200 birds right on top of us. Boom, 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 boom. Multiple birds falling all over the place, and all of a sudden, all this stuff's going on. Wow, right in front of her. Like, that is as breaking bird. That is as much of a breaking bird as you could possibly ask for. And she crushed it. I mean, those are the big things that they don't, maybe on the surface, don't look as big, because then you go back to like, hey, I love that she ran that blind. I love that she did great on that honor. But that right there was probably one of the most difficult things that she had to handle today.
So tempting.
Oh, my gosh.
So tempting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know most dogs that would have jumped out and grabbed that bird. Yeah. I mean, most dogs.
Yeah, and we had more than one fall on the ground. I mean, there was 2 or 3 that are splashing, and one goes in front of your face, and she held her own. I was proud of her.
No, it was great. So, so then tonight we went back. We reset. We're going to have a different wind for tomorrow. I hope we have some wind, because, my goodness, that's what hurt us today, if anything did. I shouldn't say that. We didn't get hurt too bad, but it really would have helped. And then, so we have a new set. We moved the blinds. We moved the spread. We moved everything. You and I, Eric and I, have a game plan of kind of how we're going to run these dogs, and how which side is what we're going to do. And now there's going to be another factor into this. We didn't have them in play today because we wanted to get Scout kind of acclimated to this. But we are going to run jerk strings tomorrow. Which, has she ever encountered jerk strings before?
Never.
Okay, so for those of you that have not used jerk strings, we are going to, they're essentially strings that we tie off to 2, 3, 4, 5 decoys on the way. It has a weight on the end of it, and from in the blind, we can jerk the string back and forth, and it creates motion. So, like, let's just say we have 4 on the string. You pull the string, it comes to you. You let go, it comes back. And it just creates motion, right? Water motion is so big, right? So with this, the dog standpoint, there's likely going to be a point that she gets hung up in it, right? And so how we handle that and how she handles that, right? So, like, the big thing that, stay calm, good girl, come on, good girl. Encourage her, because for her, is she getting bit by an alligator? Like, what in the world's going on, right? And so it's just one of those things that we have everyone that is going to be handling the jerk rigs inside. They're going to be on instruction of, hey, if she gets hung up, just let it go. Because sometimes, like, if it's hanging on something or like tied off to something, now all of a sudden if she hits it, it's going to feel like it's grabbing her and kind of putting that pressure, and that's when things kind of go bad. So, so we have a game plan, but this is going to be new for her.
Oh, I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
that's going to be awesome.
Yeah. So, I'm sure we'll have something to talk about tomorrow with that, because more times than not, I mean, unless she just happens to just get lucky and just, miss that string every time, she's going to hit it. And some dogs, it doesn't faze them at all. And some dogs, it is like the boogeyman's coming out from underwater and grabbing them. So,
yep.
So, yeah. Anything else you guys have from today?
No, just a really fun start. I know you guys, I heard the comment in the blind several times from you and Mike. There was just a lot of cool stuff that happened today, and I'm excited for tomorrow. It's still kind of up in the air. We didn't see the birds tonight like we did the night before, so it's hunting, but we're positioned in a really good spot, and I think this whole week's just gonna be a blast.
Yeah, I hope so. So time will tell.
Yep.
We might get out there tomorrow and never fire a shot.
That's
you
right.
don't know. So anyway, I appreciate you guys taking the time tonight before dinner to get this done, and I want to give a quick shout out to Bret, because I know a lot of you guys are following along on Retriever Roadmap, the stories that he's doing. This is not an easy thing, and Eric is getting to see that firsthand here. Is that I mean, these stories, as much as everyone loves them, I mean, the time consumption of not only taking them in the field, but then coming in, cutting them down, editing them, putting them up, and getting them put together. I really appreciate you doing that, because I know it's not. I mean, I don't know how late you were doing it last night. It had to have been midnight or later.
It was 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
go to sleep, and a few hours later get back up.
Yeah.
I got to see it, and from the guy that's not been around it before, from everybody who gets to see, listen to these podcasts and those Instagram reels, pretty impressive, Bret. You put a lot of time and effort into it. So,
thank you.
And to see it behind scenes go into past midnight, and tonight's going to be another long night. And from our community, from the outside community, we thank you a ton for that stuff, because I love when you put that stuff on.
Appreciate it.
Love it.
Appreciate it very much. Yeah, it's just part of it. To me, we have listeners, we have people that are looking for stuff, and if I procrastinate, then it eats at me. So it's best just to get it done and get it out there. So I really appreciate those kind words. So one last thing, like you guys said, it's just we're going to continue to do stories. I'm going to post another story tonight. Since I posted the one last night, was a little late. I just don't want a whole bunch of little dashes going across. I want some of the ones that have been edited or been posted to get through. So be sure to follow along with that. Today was a special day. Not only from, like I said, it's not all about the birds, but just watching everything that took place, and it was just a special day. So I think tonight's story is going to be super cool.
Today was just one of those days that you sat back and you just appreciated it for, this is why you do this. Yes, it is for the dogs. Yes, it is for the camaraderie and the friendships that we all have. But just watching these birds, they are incredible animals, and watching them do their thing and sitting back and just enjoying the show. I mean, we're pretty blessed to be able to do this.
100%.
Really are.
100%.
So, thank you, boys, for taking this time. And I think Kyle has steaks on the grill. Steak night. So, we're going to sleep really well tonight after we get a good steak in us. So, anyway, so day 1 in the books. We'll come at you guys here tomorrow after day 2. Hope you guys have a great night. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes. And a special thank you to Eukanuba, because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.